Hi everyone. Thanks for joining me with this video of my crane journey. I thought I would put a video together. Actually, it was um, suggested by my wife that I put something together talking about how I got to where I am. Um, but it started with RC vehicles. As you see here, this is an MN128. And I bought one for my wife and I maybe a year and a half or so ago, just to kind of have some fun and explore the world of RC. And and after purchasing those, I started thinking about, well, I just don't want to sit them up on the shelf. I'd like to have something kind of in the same vein of what they were to house them. And here you see I put together a little two-car garage. And here, this is a shot here of ultimately what it looked like. But then I wanted to go move on from there, and I put a top to it, and um, got it so that we could park that, drive them up using the crawler ability. And this is the final result. Put a little helipad on top, and that was it. But then I started going further, and I said, well, it'd be nice if I could have a lift for them. And I tried to come up with some designs with that, and it ultimately became undoable because, as you can see here, there was no way to get the vehicles off of the elevator sideways. So uh, I backed down, or I backed up from that path, and that kind of led me to where I am now. So, well, we can't do an elevator. Um, what about doing a lift or a crane to do this? If I can't have an elevator to move the vehicles to the second or third level of the garage, maybe I can just do a crane in general. And that kind of is where the idea of crane modeling came from. So I started putting some ideas down in my word processor, just some graphical ideas to see what I would be up against and how I wanted the final product to look. And I could think through these ideas and see where potential problems would occur and how I would address um, the different operational hurdles that I needed to cross. And this is what we came up with. This is the first crane that I built. This is all wood, with the exception of the counterweight containers, the motors, obviously, and a couple of additions that I added afterwards. But 95% of this crane is built by my hands and with wooden parts. Um, so this is a little bit of the operation of that. You can see here the pulleys, or the sheave in this case, pulley wheels, whichever you like. Those are done in wood. Um, that took a lot. Um, all of those, the boom itself, I put together. As you can see, it's not professional, but it works. And I was pretty happy with that. I got the operation to work with the boom and the well, actually, the winch was the operational portion of it. The boom was mechanical, and me not knowing anything about cranes, I put a gear at the um, axle portion or the pivot portion of the boom, thinking that that would work, and it did not. The weight at the end of the boom just crushed the wooden gears. So I knew that I had to do something else, and indeed found out that that's not how booms are designed. So I had to go back and do some more research and find out how these booms were constructed or designed in the first place. So, as you can see here, I've made the necessary adjustments. Now I have a motor at the top of that mast, the black portion, and now I am able to effectively and efficiently control that boom. So this was I think 2 pound plus, 2 pound 12 ounce load, I believe it was. And the boom has now been automated. So now we're at 2 automated operations. And in my mind, actually before we got to this point, I was done. But then my wife said to me, now all you have to do is make it turn around by itself. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I barely could get the boom working. So, but you know, that's a Leo. So, of course, I'm not one to turn down a challenge. So my mind immediately started looking at, can I and how would I provide a slewing operation for this crane? Very difficult, to sum it up. But I gave it a shot. I worked through it bit by bit, tried some things, backed out of some things. And at the end of it all, I was successful. We'll get to that portion here in a little bit. Okay, now we have the lowering solution for the boom. So I was pretty proud of this, seeing that I'd never constructed a crane before in my life. I actually didn't know how one really operated. Um, you know, but I set out to do it, and it was done, and I was proud of that. Now we get to the challenge that my wife had put to me, and as you can see, I was successful in accomplishing that task. The upper portion of this crane, indeed, entire top portion of the crane is sitting on ball bearings. My next crane was completely designed and in Fusion 360 and 3D printed. Um, I was still and am still learning Fusion 360. But here's what this turned out to be. I called this my contraption. This is a mobile crane. It was my attempt, but well, here it is. It operated well. All 3 operations were automated: slewing, boom, and winch. And here it is. Obviously, this was a lot of work. This is the first time that I had created a boom, for instance, in Fusion 360, and trying to learn how to do a pattern such as this and have all the measurements correct and accurate. It was a learning curve. As you can see, this load here is about 4+ pounds, 3 to 4 pounds, not much. But as you can see, there are sections to the boom, as you can see by the dark um, lines there. Those dark spots are actual JB Weld polymers that I used in conjunction with screws and nuts, or bolts and nuts, to fortify that. This was the first time that I introduced a multi-pulley system as well. Here you can see I have uh, 2 pulleys, I think, engaged. It'll go all the way up to 4, and I indeed increased it to 4 later on. Here's the boom. Learning from the first crane, I now understood how to operate my boom. This is something that, if you can tell, you'll see here shortly, I have line that connects the top of the mast all the way down to the superstructure. On the right hand side, you'll see a light blue line, but that is a counterbalance to the weight of the boom on the left side. Actually, here are the 2 motors here, and those to the far right are the 2 lines that I have anchored down to the superstructure as a counter to the boom. And you can see a slight bend there. Before, it actually cracked when I was testing it. So I made clips and bolted those at the different JB Weld sections to clamp that down. That was a later enhancement. Outriggers, I tried to do the best that I could. They're functional, but they're nowhere near perfect, and I could not automate those, so those are purely manual. I bought a RC vehicle and retrofitted that to my crane. But at this point, the black base, that's built out of 1/2-inch plywood. And that base is so heavy that the RC motors barely could move it forward or backward. I subsequently switched that out and bought a 6-wheel RC truck and retrofitted it, and it moved it, but it was still sluggish. So this is all the way out, almost 90 degrees. 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 12 ounces. There you go. And this is with a two pulley system. So a lot of learning there, a lot of piecing together and retrofitting. Just to accomplish what I was trying to accomplish. This is I was using a waxed base line here, that black cabling. And it didn't work well. I mean, it has a very high tensile strength. I think it's 125 pounds, test pound. But the wax on it didn't work well with the pulleys, and it would come off and coat the sheaves and so forth. And it's still on there. Well, it's not now because I have dismantled that crane, and I am going to reuse the hardware, the motors, the boards, and so forth for a new design. But this was what I termed my beta crane. And this is right before dismantling of the crane. I had never done a load test of this weight before. with it. And to my surprise, as you can see, a little movement there, um, it was able to lift 10 pounds of load. I'm taking it very slow here because any kind of failure more than likely would be catastrophic. And we've cleared the first two legs of that load. And here we go. It has cleared the ground. That was a surprise to me. I'd been up to 6 pounds, I think. I have another freight container with 6 pounds of ballast, and I had only tested it with that 6-pound freight container. And there we go. And as you can see, I've now increased this to a 4-pulley system. I've also changed out the winch line to a non-wax. And here is my contraption. Those are the anchor lines there to counterbalance the boom and load. And those are the bolted clips that I put on the mast. Finally, the light portion. And as you can see here, both of the cranes have been lit. And here we go. This is almost at the end of my journey. Look for part 2. This is going to be interesting. This is a culmination of all my experience between the first 2 cranes. Thank you guys for checking this out, and cheers.